If you have a computer with a webcam, chances are you use Skype. A great site for friends and family to chat, either through text, verbally, or face-to-face. Basically like an iPhone, but for your computer. But as well as talking with family and friends on Skype, there's also a chance you'll meet some new people there. And that's not always a good thing. Sometimes Skype calls can lead to disaster. Here's a collection of such instances of Skype terror. Skype me. It is a common theme for one to say that the years in middle school are ones of pure and unadulterated awkwardness, as we struggle to cope and develop into young adults capable of braving reality outside of school walls. Like most people, I would claim that my middle school years were that of a particularly awful experience. I fought to be both a conformist and a nonconformist, while trying to develop and maintain friendships I'd treasure in grades 1 through 5. My 7th and 8th year being particularly horrific due to the fact I went through that dreaded phase known on Tumblr as the roar means I love you in dinosaur and screamo metal music is my life. LOLs, I'm so random and my hair is pink. Yeah, that phase. At the time, I was an overweight, pimply child who had little to no self-confidence and thirsted for a member of the opposite sex to find me attractive. In the summer prior to 9th grade, I got my wish. But they say, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. At the time, I was moving to a different state. My life was in shambles. My parents had just gotten a divorce, but in reality it was a blessing. My father was physically and emotionally abusive to my mother and I. And I would have to be leaving the few people I truly cared about, and the only place I'd ever known as home. So one evening as I sat in my new house and fiddled around on Facebook, my small mailbox alit red informing me I'd gotten a message. It was a boy I'd gone to school with, though I'd never truly made it my effort to befriend him, because there was an age difference between us, and I was still horrifyingly awkward about conversation with those who were not in my friend group. Curious as to why he'd suddenly decided to strike conversation with the likes of me, I replied a simple greeting. That is when the worst 2 years of my life began to unfold. At first the boy seemed kind. We were both hideously awkward and had similar tastes. It was a pleasant friendship, but the sole communication was through Facebook Messenger. At the time, my cell phone rights were restricted due to the move, and I was 90% positive the boy didn't own a mobile phone, so we only spoke in the evenings when I was allowed computer privileges. Summer ended, as it always does, and school was back in session. I had finally begun to shed the weight I'd carried from childhood, and began thinning out. I allowed my hair to grow back after a horrendous mistake of cutting it to resemble a role model I liked, and dyed it back to a color that was considered normal. I began settling with a decent group of friends, and all was going well, until the boy's attitude turned sour. He'd been giving me the cold shoulder. At first I was hurt, but it couldn't be helped that I needed to devote my time to school more so than the internet. But he began to accuse me of using him, and till this day I have no clue as to what I'd used him for. After long messages of assurance, I finally settled him down, and we continued our conversations as if nothing had happened. It was at this point I should have started noticing red flags. It was the night that I got my first webcam for my dated laptop that I regret most out of all the choices in my life. I installed Skype and made a Facebook status asking for contact names. Within seconds of that status, my notifications alit red with a comment. The boy had been the sole comment, and I, being the naive little twit I was, added him. I video chatted with the boy for 3 hours. Each time I would try to say my goodbyes, He changed the topic to direct me from ending the call. I felt rather uncomfortable with the entire event and felt true relief when the call finally ended. But that was just the start of it all. To this day, I find my skin crawling when I hear the Skype ding. I wish I could simply say that he was only able to contact me through Skype, but that is not the case. Back home, he was able to get my new cell phone number from a friend, who to this day still will not confess to doing so, and so began the constant calls and text messages from an array of numbers. Did you know that there are applications where a person is able to get a cell phone number and can phone and text for free? I didn't, and thus began the string of calls and texts. Stuff like, "I'm in love with you. I don't ever want you with someone else. I want you all to myself. Why don't you talk to me? Why don't you love me? You fucking bitch. God, you're such a slut. You're fat and ugly. No one but me will ever want you. I know where you live. How would you like it if I came and raped you right now? If you don't love me, I'm going to kill myself. The blood will be on your hands." These text messages and more went on for months. I couldn't sleep, I lost weight, I had no appetite. I went so far as to delete my Skype and Facebook accounts, but nothing seemed to work. It was a miserable lifestyle. Even still, I refused to tell my parents. They suspected I was being troubled, but had absolutely no idea of the harassment. Each time I heard a phone ring, even if it wasn't my own, I would crumble into a trembling mass of tears and anxiety. Okay, maybe not every time, but even still, my blood would run cold and I'd have troubles breathing. Eventually, my mother cornered me, demanding an explanation. I came clean, playing her a particularly hostile voicemail where he threatened to spread my contact information on Omegle. My mother was furious. She snatched my cell phone and called him. She snarled a threat and then called the police. A restraining order was put into place, and I again changed my cell phone number. Some people may say this isn't stalking, but I have no other way of classifying my experience. I occasionally returned home to visit with friends I left behind. They tell me he's found a new girl. The police have been involved in that case as well. Chills continue to run down my spine each time I hear the words, "Skype me." Oh, Skype. Over the weekend, I checked my Skype for the first time in months. I had a contact request, and I wasn't sure who it was. The username was something silly, like Young Love Money. I added him so I could see his info, but I still couldn't figure anything out. He tried to call me on Skype later that day. I didn't answer. He sent me about 5 messages. "Hi, how are you? You there? What's up? Hello?" After that, I got another call, and then another, and then another. He kept changing his username too. I was getting calls about every 5 minutes. Then the messages started going angry and sexual. "I like sex. I'm gonna fuck you. I want you to see my penis." More calls, more messages. I deleted him, but I kept getting calls. I couldn't figure out how to block him on my phone. My boyfriend and I went to my dad's house to watch football with him and the other men in my family that night. I kept getting nasty messages, but no calls. My boyfriend told me to call it and see if anyone picked up. I call it, and my fucking stepbrother's Skype starts ringing. My stepbrother scrambles for his phone and stops the call. My call hangs up right as he ignores the call. He then goes upstairs and didn't come back down. He is a 29-year-old, 6'4", 260-pound man-child that still lives at home and doesn't work. He made me uncomfortable because he has a temper, invades space, and constantly makes very inappropriate jokes at the strangest times. Now I'm extremely nervous, but I don't want to tell my dad about it because I don't want to strain his new marriage. I also know that no matter what, This guy's mom will baby him and act like he didn't do anything wrong. She's the reason he acts the way he does. I always thought he was creepy, but not that creepy. Who has been calling my Skype account? My coffee was just as strong and hot as I liked it this morning. I took a sip and gave a pleasant sigh as I leaned back in my chair. My computer was starting up. I work from home, working with clients on account issues and the like, so I used a lot of voice and remote software to help them. It was a pretty cushy job, but I had to make sure to work at least 40 hours a week, as my time was tracked through a separate tracking program. When my computer started up, I opened up Skype and my company email through Outlook to check what messages I may have missed this weekend. I never worked weekends, not with having a wife and 2 kids. Outlook has the standard messages from clients, asking me to take a look and help them understand and fix some of their accounts. No problem. I had enough backed up messages to keep me occupied for a day. The familiar Skype sound started, the all too familiar bubble pop sound that Skype had when starting up. I had a few messages pop up, mostly from my own conversations that I had with coworkers, talking about the days and the accounts. It was always professional, but there was a joke here and there. As I was sifting through, I noticed a friend request from a strange multi-symboled name. Strange, but clients are sometimes paranoid. When I went into the Skype conversation to click add, the message was, "I have added you so that you may watch. Please enjoy our show." Odd, I thought to myself. This must be some sort of joke. I added the strange person and went about my day, not receiving any messages from them. I helped clients with their accounts, added some others to my client list, and had some small conversation with my boss about where I was in rankings. As I was about to finish up my day, around 4:30, the strange contact sent me a message. "Are you ready for your first viewing?" I paused for a second and replied, "Who is this, and what am I viewing?" In an almost inhuman speed, they replied, "The beginning. You are curious, so you will accept my call." Damn, they were right. I wanted to know what was going on. Shortly after, I got a video call from the unknown person and accepted it. At first, there was no audio and a black screen, but the camera started moving. Not like a computer, but like someone was holding a video camera. Then the audio cut in. "Please, where am I? I didn't do anything!" That voice sounded strangely familiar. Where have I heard it before? "Please stop! I didn't do anything! Please stop hurting me!" Wait, that sounds like... No. I frantically grabbed my cell phone and searched through the contacts, shaking. I found my old boss from 2 years ago, hoping I still had the right number. I called her phone. When it started ringing, I heard a ringtone go off on the Skype video. I heard the phone answer and then a click. Then a smashing sound on the video. No, stop! Go away! Stay away from me!" The video sounded. I heard her sobs through the computer. I started typing at the mysterious person on Skype. "Who the hell are you? What are you doing?" "In due time, friend. Now watch." The video showed my old boss taped to a chair, with bruises and cuts all over what I could see. She was naked and had fingers missing. I was still holding my phone, and so I decided that this would be a good time to call the police. I typed 911 into the phone as fast as I could and waited for someone to pick up. When the operator picked up and asked me my emergency, I blurted out, panicked and stumbling over words. "This guy added me on Skype and is making me watch him kill someone I knew." She asked for my address and what I could see in the video. I told her the only thing I saw was my old boss taped and naked to a chair with some mutilation and cuts. As I was talking to the operator, a figure moved into frame and started stroking her face. "I see someone! I see a guy!" I exclaimed loudly. I tried to describe him as best as I could, but there was nothing identifying. I couldn't even tell what race the guy or girl I would consider later was. The operator told me to sit tight and they would have someone over as soon as they could. 5 minutes later, there was a quick knock on my door. I saw the glint of a badge through the peephole, and I let them in and ushered them to the computer. The video was still on and streaming through Skype. I told them what I had seen so far, and they called it in, knowing this was serious. Some more time later, there were multiple officers in my house, and a detective, an old gruffy guy who was staring at the computer screen. We had tried to communicate with the person on the other end, but there was never a response. Finally, as we were all watching and trying to trace the Skype call through their cybercrimes, the figure turned around, looked at the camera, and you could swear it was smiling. He was smiling. During the time, all the police had shown up. He had done nothing to my old boss, but she had stopped pleading. She had stopped talking. She was only breathing as far as we could tell. Had we paid attention to her, we would have noticed she had been laughing. When the first officers had shown up, had we paid attention, we would have noticed the smile on her face. Had we paid any fucking attention, we would have noticed that the room she was sitting in looked way too familiar, with the dark shapes that loomed from the light they had used to illuminate her. Now that we were paying attention, we realized that after the figure turned around like it was mocking us, my old boss was staring at me. It wasn't just at the camera, it was at me. She smiled through blood. She waved with her fingerless stumps of hands, and then the figure slit her throat. She didn't even twitch. She bled out while smiling. The figure waved as well, and the stream was cut. The officers tried to confiscate my computer, but the detective wouldn't let him. His reasoning is that I was the only one, as far as they knew, that was contacted with this stream. He wanted to, instead, have me keep the computer, and whenever I got a call from this mysterious person, I would call them right away, and they would do whatever they could to locate everything. I regret saying that was okay. My thought process then was that I wanted to do whatever I could to find the killer. Good God,